What if you could take a pill that gave you the ability to see the ghosts of your loved ones who've passed away? How addictive do you think a high like that would be, and do you think any potential side effects would be worth the risk? And how would you feel about having some white guilt sprinkled in just for good measure? Ghost Eaters by Clay McLeod Chapman answers those questions and more in horrifying detail. The book centers around four friends, Aaron, Amara, Tobias, and Silas, Aaron being our main protagonist. And the book opens up with the four friends tripping acid in a famous cemetery in Richmond, Virginia. This opening section does a good job of setting up the fun and spooky tone that's going to carry out through the entire book, and it also establishes that Silas is the wild one of the group and the mastermind that's always getting them into shenanigans. There's a pretty intense encounter during this opening scene in the cemetery that perfectly foreshadows what the rest of the book is going to be about. After this opening scene, the narrative picks up a couple years later after the four friends have graduated college, and they're trying to navigate that weird era that is your mid-20s. Some of them are working part-time jobs, they're trying to figure out what they want to do with their lives. We've found out at this point that Silas's carefree, I want to experience everything life has to offer attitude has landed him in rehab for not the first time. We also find out that Aaron and Silas have been on and off for the past couple years, and this leads to her breaking him out of rehab before he's actually supposed to be released from rehab. And this sets up the introduction of the drug Ghost that lets you see the spirits of people who've died. So this is a good time to talk about the setting in which this book takes place, and the book takes place in Richmond, Virginia, which happens to be the city that I live in. And so this isn't an actual critique of the book, it's more of a personal experience I have, but since I'm so familiar with the setting that I found myself trying to recreate the locations in my head instead of just painting a picture as I read the narrative like I normally would. I mean, there's instances where the characters go to a bar that I've been to a couple times and even played an open mic night once or twice, and at one point they're actually walking through the neighborhood that I live in. Anyways, the setting of Richmond, Virginia is important because the drug Ghost allows you to see the spirits of people who have died. And under controlled circumstances, you can be guided and reunited with your loved ones, but it also just lets you see ghosts in general. And if you know anything about Richmond, Virginia, you know that the city is just haunted generally by ghosts, but it's also haunted by its past. Richmond, Virginia was the capital of the Confederacy during the US Civil War. Now Richmond is a mecca of breweries, art school hipsters, live music, and beautiful murals on the side of almost every building. But just underneath all of those murals, you can still see Richmond's history that's steeped in racism, prejudice, and class division. I think the book does a really great job at exploring these themes. We find out that Erin, our main protagonist, actually comes from a well-off family. Her parents' home is located in an area in Richmond where all the McMansions are, and it's implied that she comes from a long line of generational wealth. If there is a rich white family in the Richmond area, it's pretty safe to assume they amassed all of that money through the use of slavery. I think following Aaron and looking through this lens, the book explores white guilt by literally making it confront the ghosts of its past. At one point, Aaron is high on the drug Ghost, and she's just roaming the streets of Richmond. And beyond the horror of seeing ghosts that are horribly disfigured, probably from the ways they were tortured and killed, she sees ghosts she recognizes as not just African American, but also the indigenous peoples who used to live on the land Richmond is now built on top of. Before Richmond was colonized, the area was home to many indigenous people, one of the larger tribes being the Powhatan tribe. What makes these encounters even more horrific, beyond just the description of ghosts who look like they're still suffering from the ways in which they were killed, is the way it confronts the ghosts of the past and brings up the ways in which these people had their friends and families killed and their homes ripped away from them by the white colonists. These ghosts are still in Richmond, haunting the city and the streets. I think the book explores white guilt in an interesting way by implying that these ghosts have always been here, but most people aren't willing or able to see them. Other themes explored in the book are death and the process of letting go of your loved ones, as well as addiction. The book itself isn't horribly scary. While there are some striking descriptions and some disturbing imagery, there's nothing that's going to keep you up at night or have you sleeping with the lights on. Some of the horror actually shines through by the description of what the drug Ghost and the effect it has on people actually is. It's revealed to be incredibly addictive. I mean, it allows you to see and speak with the ghosts of your loved ones, so who wouldn't want to use it all of, if not most of the time? And I can see some serious parallels between the drug Ghost and the real life opioid epidemic, and it really shows how everyday people can just get trapped and spiral down the funnel of addiction. And for people who are struggling with addiction in their everyday lives, it really can seem like a ghost that's just haunting them every day in the background. A small gripe I did have with the book is that at times I found the four main characters a little annoying, and I wasn't sure why they were actually friends. It didn't seem like they really liked each other that much. I mean, the book does gloss over their college years, which are very formative when it comes to like making friends and the people you surround yourself with, and that could also fit into the theme of addiction. And we've all had people in our lives who are toxic, but we just can't seem to cut them out for some reason, and I think that might be part of it. Overall, I think Ghost Eaters is a fun and creepy story that explores some really interesting themes, especially considering the location it's set in. So if you're looking for a good, spooky story that takes place in the capital of the South, then I would give Ghost Eaters by Clay McLeod Chapman a read.